by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, as we are going a little bit late today because of the Sam Pittman press conference. And fellas, I actually thought about starting this show in the same way Sam Pittman looked and sounded in the opening of his press conference, like his head down in his elbows, looking exhausted doing this. We're going to play some clips. We're going to talk about some things, but guys, that looked rough. That sounded rough. If you just took everything away from anything we've talked about football and practice, and you just used today's press conference to gauge if you're excited or if you're nervous, like that was brutal, man. That was a pretty brutal press conference.
Yeah, that was interesting. The body language was not great there from Sam Pittman. And some of this stuff is always scripted to a degree. You know, like we're getting ready to break camp or done with the second scrimmage, want to, send a message to the guys or whatever. But I don't know, man. You look at Sam Pittman's face, some of his responses. We got salty Sam a little bit today. I think he was a little pissed off about what he saw out there. And I just don't know how you could believe anything else based on the way that came across. So it wasn't all bad. He had some good things to say. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But Buddy sounds like they were bit by the turnover bug and the penalty bug and got a lot to clean up over the course of the next 2 weeks here.
I want to start by offering a slightly positive spin of, listen, these are high-level coaches that are perfectionists. And, there's a coach being dissatisfied with his team after a practice in particular, doesn't necessarily mean, his team sucks and, him being upset. Because think about all the times we saw Eric Musselman come to the press conference and be like, this team, they don't have it or whatever. So it's not like it's a thing where, Sam Pittman's displeased with their scrimmage. That means they're going to go 3-9. But as you guys mentioned, it was definitely a bad vibe. And frankly, we've seen Sam after a lot of these scrimmages, even last year when he spoke about some concern about the offensive line and stuff like that. I don't think he was ever like this dejected after a scrimmage like that. But I wish I would have kept it. I wish I would have recorded it and put it in just the video right before the press conference started. Pittman's sitting there at the presser, and Kyle is sitting there passing out the notes and the stats to all the media members and stuff. And you just see Pittman like with his arms in his face, like he's just waiting on the presser to start, and he's just so over it, man. Like he wanted to be anywhere but there. It was definitely not the vibe I thought we were going to get coming into today.
My only thought or maybe hope for that was it's really, really freaking hot outside. Like maybe he just walked in and was just worn out. I took my dog for a walk this morning and we went around the block and I was dripping sweat and was like, this is brutal, man. Maybe he was just hot and worn out.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case. And I get a little feisty when I get overheated too. So I don't know, man, but some things at least to raise the eyebrow that he had to say there.
Well, not only like the heat, but if you mix the heat with awful practice and then like that's the day you have to go in front of the media, because it sounds like if he would have gone in front of the media maybe one of the other days this week, probably wouldn't have gotten that. But it just was the combination of everything that made him come out and be the way he is. So, but hey, don't take it from us. Take it from him. Here's a little bit of, I guess, an opening statement, if you want to call it, from Sam Pittman and just how the overall scrimmage went today.
Summary of what I saw. I'm sure I'll see different things that I'm not talking to you about, but it's what I saw live in the scrimmage. Let's talk about special teams. Shipley kicked the ball well, punted the ball well, covered well. That part of it, we did have a bobble on a fair catch, which we cannot have. In the twos, 2 minute, get the ball back 2 minute, Shipley came out and hit a 50-yarder with 2 seconds left, which I thought was outstanding. Offensively, way too many turnovers. A little bit of too many penalties. A little bit of a reverse of the last week. I thought the defense we started slow. I'm talking about the offense. I thought we started slow. Thought we ran the ball well at times. We got to be more consistent there. but we just had too many turnovers. We were much better in red area, low red, and get the ball back 2-minute situation than we were a week ago. So I thought that was a good sign of offensive football. Defensively, thought they ran the ball well. Certainly, intercepted passes. We got to get better at our tackling. I think we've got some pretty good backs, but we got to get better at our tackling. Had too many penalties in the secondary. Too many holding penalties in the secondary. You got to understand this is with 1s, 2s, and 3s now. So I'm not categorizing any of them. I'm saying this is overall as a defense. We have to get better at that. And I think that's about it for opening statement there.
It looks like someone gave Sam Pittman a funectomy. Like, I mean, he just taking it from his body language, his tone, and then when he gets into the stuff that happened in the scrimmage, I don't know if it's ever mean anything, but anytime you start with special teams and like, yeah, I get the entire scrimmage and I'm going to start with special teams. Yeah, we did this. This was bad. Couldn't fair catch, which was bad. We had this that happened too. There were a lot of penalties in the secondary. It was just like, man, how do you get excited? How do you feel good after that opening statement of a scrimmage where the season kicks off literally 2 weeks from today?
Yeah, kind of tough. I mean, shout out to Shipley for being the first guy to get a shout out from Sam Pittman there. 3 of 4 on the day, hit another, clutch time kick there. Meanwhile, Kyle Ramsey went 0 for 4 today, but he's dealing with a groin injury. I guess Sam wouldn't go as far as to say Shipley was the guy at kicker, but Shipley's the guy at kicker. I think maybe they figured that out and they feel good about what they have there. So, yeah, that's nice. But, yeah, it was a little bit of I guess it depends on if you're a glass half empty or glass half full guy in certain ways. It's like, and I know that I'm sure we're going to have that clip about it, but the quarterbacks threw 8 damn interceptions today. That's not good. On the other hand, you can look at it and say, well, the defense picked off 8 passes. That's good. Oh, the defensive backs also had way too many holding penalties and too many flags back there. That's bad. And so it's just, I think he was trying to sandwich some good in there at times. But yeah, overall, it doesn't sound like they got exactly what they wanted out of a scrimmage here, which is their last big scrimmage with 2 weeks before, things get real.
Yeah, I'd say for Shipley, when your competition goes 0 for 4 in the last real scrimmage of the fall, I feel like that should lock it up pretty well for you. But yeah, good to see his progression. But Curtis, I'm going the other way. I think the receivers are unguardable, and that's why there were so many holding penalties. And I think these running backs are untackleable, and that's why there were so many missed tackles. And I think these DBs are ball hawks. Might not be able to guard the receivers, but they're ball hawks. So I heard a lot of great things, guys. I don't know about you.
After going sober on the Camp Kool-Aid yesterday, Andrew Ellis is back on the bottle.
Well, I was going to say, so, I feel like every time we meet with one of these coaches, it's like a little dose of Kool-Aid. Yesterday, Travis Williams did a great job bringing some Kool-Aid to the table and showing us, oh, yeah, we left it with a good vibe. This was like the Kool-Aid that made our stomach hurt, where it was like, oh, maybe it was just a little bit too
Forgot
much,
to put the sugar in it.
Yeah, like, I mean, and we'll go ahead and transfer over to alcohol here. You know how when you're drinking and you're drinking and you're having fun, and then it's like those last 2, you're like, I probably shouldn't have had those last 2. I feel like that's what this was. It's like a little bit of an overdose where we're like, all right, maybe we were hearing a lot of great stuff, and now we're hearing a little too much. Where it's like you always like a team or a player when you haven't seen them as much. Like, for instance, Mitch Mustane's first career drive. Had that awesome touchdown pass or that big pass to DJ or Damian Williams. And, he's cooking. And when he's early in his career, your imagination can run wild. Oh, this guy's going to be awesome forever. But the more you see it, the more you start to see flaws and see things you don't like. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at in fall camp is we heard all the good stuff early on, and now we're kind of hearing the intricacies. And there was still some good developments in this Sam Pittman press conference. And we can talk about those later. But I feel like now we've at least got a better, more realistic lens to view this team through, and it's not all positive, which isn't all bad, but I think we have a little bit more of an accurate depiction of what we're working with here as we get deeper in fall camp.
Well, and we got to also understand this is something I want to make clear, even though it's not going to matter because no one's going to listen to it. You can't take anything from a horrible practice in the same way you can't take anything away from a great practice. Like, there's been times where under even Sam Pittman and any coach where they've come out, I really like the practice today. I really like the guys today. We were focused in all of that. But then the season sucks. So it's like, oh, well, I heard they practice great. Well, it's practice. I feel like AI. We're talking about practice. Sometimes you have bad ones. Sometimes you have good ones. So obviously there's no reason to freak out or to think like, well, if they sucked in practice today, that means they're going 2-10. Like on a Thursday when it's 180 degrees outside. Like that's not the case. But as was mentioned and has been talked about, it's the certain things that is a problem. Like the 8 interceptions that were thrown in today's scrimmage. Was it just Taylon Green or was it others? Well, Sam Pittman went into what all went wrong with the quarterbacks and all these picks.
I don't know that answer. He may. I don't know for sure. Yeah, it's concerning. It's concerning whether it was him or somebody else, to be honest with you. But of the first 4, 3 of them were tip balls. Which has to do with catching the ball and accuracy of throwing the football. I know there was at least 2 of those 3 that if we just catch the ball, it's not a pick. It's a completion. So interceptions, you look at them on the quarterback a lot of times, all of us do, but a lot of times it's on catching the football, running the correct route, accuracy, and certainly the protection of the offensive line. So I'll have Kyle give you that answer. I don't know it.
So tip passes, tip balls, inaccurate throws, all of that. I don't care. Listen, again, practice, you're trying to get better and everything. But 8 interceptions is an absurd amount of interceptions in a scrimmage. No matter who it is, no matter who threw them, no matter what, 8 interceptions is absurd.
Yeah, it is. I really don't see the need to pump a bunch of sunshine here unless we're afraid of the chat being mean to us. That ain't good. That's terrible. I don't give a damn who the defense is. I don't care if they were scrimmaging against Georgia's defense today. Doesn't matter. 8 interceptions is crazy talk. I don't care if it was the 1s, 2s, or 3. That's not good. He knows that. It's very obvious. Sounds like they're still having trouble with the offensive line. Clearly, he mentioned that several times. So, yeah, they've got a lot of stuff to work on there. The offense, which we thought was, I don't want to say a given, but we felt more comfortable about it. And I think a lot of that was just the belief that, hey, Bobby Petrino's coming. He'll be able to wave that wand and fix everything. They've got a lot of work here to do. Could you imagine? It's a shame that was close. Could you imagine Bobby Petrino's demeanor as his quarterbacks throw 8 interceptions out there today? That's tough. And listen, I get it. Andrew Armstrong and Tyrone Broden, neither one of those guys participated in the actual scrimmage today. So your 2 top targets weren't out there. Patrick Kudus still hurt, still not back. Really Pittman said maybe Monday, maybe the next. They don't know when he's going to be back. So that's still something they're dealing with across the offensive line. So not at full strength, but 8 interceptions. That's I'd say the defense won the day. We'll go with that. It's fine.
The defense definitely won the day, but I'll be honest with you, Curtis, it would have been a lot easier to accept this as not a big deal if he had just come in and been like, hey, defense won the day and it was great. But
yes,
like you mentioned,
exactly.
You had the tackling issues, you had the holding penalties, and you had some issues up front. So it's like, okay, what really was going on here? It's a lot easier if you just are like, hey, one group dominated. Okay, so that group had a good day, and without Andrew Armstrong and Tyrone Broden, like that kind of makes sense. It doesn't seem like that's what happened here. And yeah, Bobby Petrino was just talking the other day about how a lot of tip passes in the SEC lead to interceptions because that's just how this thing works here. And so, yeah, I would say these last week or so, I feel like has allowed us to temper expectations a little bit, at least for the offensive line. And now, hey, we'll see if Patrick Kudus comes back. Maybe it's just that'll fix everything and it'll be perfect from there. Maybe those 2 receivers get back and it really doesn't matter. We'll see. But frankly, I think that it's good for this offense to kind of have some struggles like that and have some adversity to work through. Hopefully not too much before the season comes here in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I don't know what to make of this because frankly, I didn't expect to hear that. I expected to hear a little bit more of things were a little bit sharper today. And we really, he had said that he was pleased in the penalty department last week. So he didn't expect it to be worse this week, but who knows? It just is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. Perhaps you can make the argument it's good that they're kind of going through these growing pains now. And, I feel like we keep brushing over the fact that they're missing key pieces on offense, but, so it's a legit thing. But yeah, and we obviously started the show, so we didn't get to hear Taylon Green's side of the story. Maybe he had a side of just kind of this was our issue and it's fixable or whatever. But there are definitely some questions that this offense is going to have to answer, which frankly is nice because I feel like we've asked a lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball, but now we're going to have to look and analyze this offensive unit, which, we all kind of assume Bobby Petrino is just going to fix it all and it's going to be great. Now we'll see if that really comes to fruition.
Yeah, and
I'll throw some of these stats at you guys real quick, just to give you some names. I mean, 8 interceptions were thrown, and in ways, and Pittman did say, hey, these are 1s, 2s, and 3s here, so that the entire team, the entire depth chart, whatever. But I think if you look at the names of some of these guys who got these interceptions, you can read between the lines a little bit. But Tevis Metcalf had a pick, TJ Metcalf had 2. Larry Worth had 1. Those are all guys who are going to be up there, on the 2 deep. The other guys who got interceptions, Jabray Shaw, John Paul Pickens, Braylon Watson, and Joseph Witt.
John Paul Pickens got a pick, bro.
Oh yeah, a couple of those guys I've never heard of. So, I think a good amount of the damage might have been done with, KJ Jackson or Malachi Singleton or whoever, but I mean, you're a rolled ankle or whatever away from having to go with those guys. Obviously it's still a problem. And then looking at some of the other things on D, we talked about the offensive line struggles, where a way to quantify that is, how many guys are getting in the backfield or whatever. So Landon Jackson, hey, that's great to see. 3 sacks and a TFL for Landon Jackson. They can't block him. Hopefully that's the SEC can't block him and not just Arkansas can't block good edge rushers. Eric Gregory had a sack. Cam Ball had a TFL. Dylan Haas had a tackle for loss and a sack. Keevy Rose had a TFL. Brad Spence had a TFL. And Danny Saili on the interior got through for a sack. Obviously, those are touch sacks. They're not tackling the quarterbacks there. But sounds like the defensive line, which, Petrino's been giving them a lot of credit. Pittman gave him a lot of credit today, but they were kind of living in that backfield.
Well, I'm going to take it to where, I'm, talking about the defensive concerns that we've had and everything. And you mentioned it, Andrew, about the offensive concerns. Like, I'm getting to the point to where and this is just based on not today, but over the past week or so, even, I am getting concerned about the offensive line, guys. Like, I'm like legitimately getting concerned because it was all that way. But when I heard Petrino yesterday say that the offensive line came in the early part of the fall and they were not what he was expecting them to be at because of how they closed the spring, and then hearing Mateos, where he almost was like, at least in the press conference, I know you guys talked about it on a Pod of That Nature last Saturday, but it almost felt like he had a vibe when he walked into the room that he was just pissed. Like, he was just like, what is going on? And then you hear today, it's like, okay, I get it. Like, yeah, I don't think any of us is expecting the offensive line to be elite level. But when I'm hearing everybody talking about the offensive line concerns and it keeps going on, like, what, how is this a thing? How is this happening again on the offensive line? Even though, yeah, you lost some players last year, you added some quality players. I think we all agree that Carmona's a great get out of the offensive line transfer portal. I think Addison Nichols, an SEC's experienced lineman, is a good get too. But how is this still a thing where they're still having problems? I'm starting to get really concerned about it, because, guys, if you don't have an offensive line on this team, I don't care how good Taylon Green is or J.J. Jackson or any of these guys, it doesn't matter. If your offensive line can't do anything, this team's going to suck, period.
It's very, very difficult to build or rebuild an offensive line through the transfer portal. That's anywhere. And that's something that's well documented, because it really is like, who was it that was saying they want the offensive line they want it to look like, what was it, synchronized swimming or whatever? Like, everybody's moving the same. It's like poetry in motion. Everybody's steps are the same, but it's true. Like, so much of it is about camaraderie and chemistry and being in sync and on the same page, not just with themselves, but with the quarterback and everybody else on the offense. So, those guys had a good spring. I think Carmona and Nichols and, Blackstock, those guys are good players, but maybe it's going to take a little bit more time for them to all really gel. And it's been musical chairs out there, with that guard spot. You're flipping guys back and forth between guard and center, switching guys from left to right. You have to, and for a certain amount of time that you need to have that. But at some point, the 5 dudes that you're going to roll with really need to be taking a bulk of those reps, because that's who's going to be in there in the game. That's how you develop that chemistry. Injuries happen, man. Stuff happens. And when we talk about how deep is this offensive line, can they really plug in the next 4 or 5 guys and not miss a beat? Well, maybe not. based on what we're hearing here, maybe that's really not the case. And hey, it was a closed scrimmage. Like nobody was really able to be in there. We're only able to go off of what we were told, and what we were told in several ways is a little bit alarming.
Well, I know there's some people who are probably hearing us talk about this and they're like, guys, the O-line was horrible last year. How are you guys surprised that the O-line sucks? And that's because in the spring, this really wasn't a story. While we were out there and we got to see a lot more practice. I mean, we were going to see hour of practice every day. We got to see the scrimmages and everything. It was never a thing where we were like, oh man, this offensive line's struggling. We really bought that they had actually rebuilt it fairly well. And also there wasn't all this moving around. Those 5 guys that were the starters stayed the 5 guys the whole time. Now, part of that is they stayed healthy, which obviously Patrick Kudus is not out there, kind of forced their hand a little bit. But me and Curtis talked about this on the Pod of That Nature. It's never a great sign when your O-line coach says, oh yeah, we don't have a set 5. We could play 8 or 9 guys. Everyone sees that, and from a positive standpoint, they're like, oh, of course, you want to have 8 guys. If you don't know who your best 5 guys are on the offensive line, that's an issue. Nobody can, anyone trying to convince themselves of anything else is lying to themselves. I think it would be very beneficial if Arkansas could find that group and just roll with it, see what they can get going. And so, look, maybe it is as simple as Patrick Kudus not being out there, but I just, the last week or so, we have not gotten good vibes from this offensive line. And look, I also want to look at the other side of the coin there, because I do think Arkansas's defensive line, based on what we're hearing, has at least answered some of the concern that we had up front. It is kind of crazy how this week has worked, where literally like 8 days ago, I was convinced that this team had 0 linebackers and 0 D linemen. Not really, but like we thought those were the 2 positions that we were worried about. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the O-line sucks again, and linebacker might be a strength of the team. And Pittman was talking about the D-line today. It seems like Arkansas has 8 defensive linemen that they feel good about, which is, maybe you'd rather have 10 or whatever, but it's 8. 4 tackles, 4 ends. Those guys that he talked about, obviously I'm talking about Landon Jackson, Anton Jukaj, Nico Davier, and now Quincy Rhodes, who seems to be, and I quote, coming on. And then at tackle, you got Danny Saili kind of coming in there with Cam Ball, Eric Gregory, and what's the big kid's name? Jafrard. It seems like those guys are kind of taking the steps and have solidified themselves as the clear rotation at defensive line. Now, you mentioned some conditioning. That's what you want to hear from your offensive line of, we know who our 5 guys are. We know if this guy goes down, we're going here. We know if this guy goes down, we're going here. It doesn't seem like Arkansas has those answers as much on the offensive line. And some of the guys that we expected to be staples on the offensive line don't seem to be having great camps so far. Landon Jackson, 3 sacks. We keep hearing his name, and we keep hearing Carmona struggling with guarding him. I get it. And, Landon Jackson's going to be a really good SEC defensive lineman, but are you going to say that every week? Well, that guy's from Texas. Of course, he's really good. Sorry we couldn't block him. That guy, right. Ole Miss got that 5-star. Of course we can't block him. Like, are you going to say that every week?
Yeah, that's where the problem is going to come in, man. Like I don't care. There's things that I don't know because I don't know football and the ins and outs and X's and O's and what an offensive line needs to look like with their footwork and all that stuff. But I will never ever buy the idea that rotating offensive linemen is a positive, normal, good thing. I look back to Sam Pittman's offensive line because I felt like that 2015 offensive line that Sam Pittman had at Arkansas may have been one of the best offensive line units in Razorback history. Like it was up there. And why was that? Like from the get-go, from the beginning, it was Mitch Smothers at center, and you had Sebastian Tretola and Frank Ragnow at guard. And on the tackle positions, you have Denver Kirkland and Dan Skipper. That was it. That's who it was. There was no rotating because you knew who you had. And yes, injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to get banged up. But I feel like every single time, and this could be under Chad Morris, it could have been under old Kurt Anderson that took over after Sam Pittman. Anytime somebody says that, oh, we want to have rotating offensive linemen, or we want to have depth at offensive line to where we're going to move guys in and out. It's not like the defensive line where guys are going to get gassed and all of that. Like, I just don't buy that. And it's, again, starting to be concerning for me and because it's, oh man. Here's another thing too, guys. Sam Pittman, offensive line coach guy. He's a proven great offensive line coach. He's proven that. And last year, because of how bad it was, at least what I chalked it up to was, hey, Cody Kennedy just wasn't good. They didn't do a good job in the recruiting and the development. It just didn't work out, and they didn't have the guys and whatever. Okay, this year, there's no excuse. You hired Eric Mateos, a guy who proved himself at least at Baylor as an offensive line coach, and Pittman knows. Guys, when we went to those spring practices, every single time the position groups branched out, Pittman was with the O-line. He was not with anyone else. He was with the O-line. So all those things, there's no excuse this year for why the offensive line is bad or ends up being bad. I won't understand it. It will be one of the biggest mysteries of all, where maybe, just maybe, they like lost their luster of developing and eyeing talent for offensive line. I don't know, but that's just a problem, man. I don't care what anybody says. That's a problem.
Or maybe we get into the season and they're just okay.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's very possible.
We're definitely all suffering from classic, post scrimmage overreaction. It's hard not to, given what was said there. But I'm just going to throw a little bit of positivity in, because I see a lot in the chat of, this season's over, might as well fire him now. It's one bad scrimmage, and that's alarming. Like, they got a lot of stuff to clean up in the next couple of weeks, but it's not that. Were you guys expecting Arkansas to be 12-0 this year? I wasn't, so I think the fact that they're having some issues and they got a lot of stuff to work on, that I don't know that that's necessarily that surprising to me, but there were some good things that happened for the offense today. Taylor Green threw a 65-yard touchdown pass to Jordan Anthony. Great. Isaac Tesla had 2 touchdown receptions. Cool. Luke Haas was back. Didn't play last week because of a concussion. He was back. Sounds like he had a couple long catches. That's good. Jaquindon Jackson was back out there, a little bit limited, but he didn't practice or scrimmage last week. He was back. Caught a 25-yard pass from Green. So receiving running back Jaquindon Jackson there. So some good things there. Varquise Gums had a touchdown reception. Posky had a touchdown reception. So some good things to see there. Like, it wasn't all bad, even though, again, 8 interceptions and 10 sacks or whatever the heck happened there. That's not ideal, but they made some plays. R-Dub had a couple touchdowns in red zone. Braylon Russell had a few big runs there.
Big load.
Some good things happen.
I also, you mentioned Jordan Anthony had the 65-yard touchdown. I'm happy to hear Jordan Anthony's name in fall camp. That brings our Jordan Anthony name drop counter to 1 for the fall. He's a guy who by the end of spring I was kind of intrigued with. Obviously he's got the track speed and everything. So nice to hear that he caught one from Taylor Green, which feels notable. Tesla catching 2 touchdowns is nice.
Good.
I feel like we're almost on the brink of Tesla might be back. Because about a week ago, it seemed like, hey, just nailing the coffin. Like, this guy's been passed up on the depth chart. But then Petrino said, I'm still trying to figure him out a little bit, trying to find some ways to use him. When they moved him to the slot, that seems like that's really helped him. I know he spent some time there last year, but it seems like they've kind of found a better position for him to work. And so, hey, you're starting to see the cream rise to the top a little bit at other positions at least. And so we'll see if that works on the offensive line, if they will finally. And also, we should mention, they're about to enter it into that situation where they're prepping for a game. It's no longer fall camp. And so I think the experimentation is probably going to come to an end here soon. And perhaps that'll get the best group out of this team. But when I saw Sam Pittman today, he struck me as a guy who kind of realized, like, oh, damn, like there's more issues here than I realized. But you would much rather have that realization right now than in Stillwater in week 2 or whatever the case may be. So yes. I think there's plenty of silver linings to take here. And I appreciate you listing them all out there for us, Curtis. That was nice. But yeah, there's certainly questions. There's time to answer them, but we definitely got questions leading into this season at this point.
What happened to the Monte Harrison hype train? I do not see him on the list of big plays. It's just not his day.
I saw Xavier Sorey picked off a pass intended for Monte Harrison yesterday, or at least what the football account tweeted out. So maybe that was it.
And one thing, what I think Pittman seemed the most frustrated about to me was he was talking about he hadn't seen it up to this point with this group in camp, but that they were really, really sluggish at practice yesterday. And he felt like it you don't want to stack, bad days or whatever. And he felt like maybe that was the case with the offense in particular. He thought that they came out real sluggish today too.
Well, I think this is the clip because he was asked about, is his team on schedule for where they're supposed to be 2 weeks out from kickoff. I believe this is the clip that you're referring to here.
Yeah, I think so. Here's what I saw for the first time. It was yesterday. I thought we were sluggish yesterday, and that was a Spiders practice. I thought we were sluggish. I thought we were slow, which we're not trying to keep them fresh for the scrimmages right now. We're not. We're trying to, continue to develop our team with the toughness of it, and we're pressing them until Monday. And so we were sluggish yesterday, and I felt like, at least offensively, where we were sluggish today. Defensively, I felt like we flew around a little bit. Again, the tackling is a concern that we got to get better at, but I like where we're at. I like our kids because they work extremely hard. It's important to them. They got a really good team togetherness culture about them. But we just didn't play as well at times, either side of the ball at times, like I wish we would have today.
So there you have it. A little sluggish yesterday and being on schedule. And here's another thing too, maybe, try to throw in some other nice little things to say, or at least maybe some perception or perspective. They're 2 weeks away. Like, they have time. Now, if this was, game week, 2 days away and this was happening, okay, then it's like, all right, now this is, but you got 2 full weeks still until kickoff. You can right a lot of these wrongs. You can fix a lot of these things. That's why they have fall camp. That's why it goes for so long, is to fix these things. So, yeah, not good now, but they got time. They got time.
Okay. Yes, Rob, we were talking interceptions. If anybody's not bothered by 8, I don't care what Bobby Petrino said about wanting his quarterbacks to be aggressive and trying to make throws in practice. 8 interceptions in a scrimmage is way too many. It's a red flag. Yes, brother, we were talking about it. We were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, look,
I
I feel like I bring up KJ Jefferson a lot, but I think he had a career high in interceptions last year in the Dan Enos offense, but that's really not something that he was doing a lot throughout his career at Arkansas, was putting them in bad positions by throwing interceptions. I mean, he was a guy that took pretty good care of the ball for the most part, aside from the goal line on dives into the end zone. But I think it's definitely something to be concerned about. But John, to your point about the fatigue and about them being 2 weeks away, camp is such a grind. I mean, it's a grind for weirdos like us who just talk about it. So you can imagine how much of a grind it is for some of these players. I think Jaquinton Jackson even said when he was at Utah, they only practiced like an hour and a half. And it was obviously way better, cooler weather in Utah this time of year. And he was like, there was a little bit of an adjustment period. Petrino and Pittman have both mentioned several players who had a hard time adjusting to the intensity of the practices. And so I think that's also another thing this coaching staff is dealing with, of like, oh, damn, like, we've gotten some good work. We've been putting in a lot of good quality practices in fall camp, but maybe this team is just exhausted at this point. And so we'll see how they, look moving forward, or maybe this is just kind of the culmination of all that. I do think that when you get into the season and the practice schedule loosens up a little bit, it changes things a little bit. I think you could just be at that point where this team is just not the best version of itself right now, but they're not supposed to be the best version of themselves right now.
Well, we'll get into some of your chats too, because I know we got a lot of people asking some questions in there, and we'll try to address it. I'm sure it's going to be really nice and good and grand and wonderful. But what's also great, grand, and wonderful, of course, is our friends over at Alumni Hall, as we're really excited that they're going to be with us and be a part of Inside Arkansas here for the rest of the football season. So really appreciate them and their support of us here at Inside Arkansas. You can shop them online at alumnihall.com to see all the great apparel that they have for all things Razorbacks. It truly is the best Razorback apparel shop. I know that there's other places around here in Fayetteville and around the state of Arkansas that you could get some shirts and apparel, but you're not going to get the same quality, because they have all the different brands. They have all the things. I know Muss isn't the coach anymore, but they always had those polo shirts that he rocked. I guarantee you they're going to have whatever it is that Calipari's going to be wearing. I don't think he's going to be doing suits anymore, but if he's got a cool quarter zip or whatever, they're going to have it at Alumni Hall. So if you want to look like
all right,
the quarter zip or the I guess that's pretty much the only thing else he wears. But either way, they're going to have
the same one like 9 times to start his tenure.
Yeah, there's only so many, that he can go through. But yeah, you can get those though. They're going to have them. So if you want to look like a coach, give you that feeling like, hey, I look like a coach. People probably like, hey, that's a coach. That's a coach over there. Look like a coach at Alumni Hall. You can check them out in their location in Fayetteville, 3417 North College Avenue. You can also shop them online at alumnihall.com. It's Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping destination. Okay, questions and stuff that's going on in the chat. This is going to be great. Let's see, dude. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's start with. Let's start with this one. It says Bobby was in the middle of the SEC last year with better players. What were we expecting? Okay, it's a scrimmage.
Context matters a little bit, I feel like. And it's not, what you're saying is not inaccurate. But I feel like it's a completely different situation. And I don't mean that like it's going to be way better at Arkansas. I just mean it literally is a situation you can't really compare to Texas A&M playing for a head coach that calls plays in Jimbo Fisher. It's just a very, very different situation. And, that doesn't mean that Arkansas is definitely going to be better than A&M's offense last year, but I don't think the situations are necessarily comparable.
Well, they definitely don't have as good of players, as much talent as Texas A&M did. So that much is true. But yeah, I mean, this is not Bobby Petrino calling plays from Sam Pittman's playbook.
Right.
Yes.
That's not what this is. So yeah, he's going to be able to get in his bag.
Yeah. But also, I mean, guys, I could be wrong. Wouldn't you want to be, or at least I would be okay being middle of the pack of SEC in offense?
This is also true.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're probably a top 35 offense in the country if you do that.
Yeah. So yeah. Even if he is the middle of the pack, I think it'll be okay. Like, I don't think anybody's expecting Arkansas's offense to be a top 3 SEC offense. If you are, you're out of your mind. Like, but yeah, if you told me that Arkansas was going to be 7th or whatever in the SEC in offense at the end of the season, sign me up right now.
Yeah.
Sign me up right now. Let's see. MC says, well, the issues sound obvious on where they need to do work, e.g. interceptions, but they are also getting good look at specifically who is having the problems. So yeah, I guess it's true.
I mean, yeah, that's what this stuff is for. No doubt about it. And at the same time, like, there is a balance there because, and Rob was right in his quote earlier about, like Petrino is telling his quarterbacks, like, sure, if you're going to be aggressive, take some chances, see if you can make these throws. That's the only way you're going to know if you can do it in games.
They know they can't do it.
That's exactly right. And they know who can't do it. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I actually was wondering because, when Petrino said yesterday of like, Taylor Green was struggling with a certain route and he came in always and says, these are the plays I want to run. I was like, I wonder if a lot of those picks were on that route. He's like, I want to run this route.
Picks.
Yeah. Just apparently that's just
hey, Taylor, we're just going to take this one out, man. We're good.
Trashing it. Yeah, we'll find some other play for you to do. This is what Mr. Bloodline was on one too. He says, that's not that one. I do want to get to that one here in a second, but it's this one. Is it possible that Sam was never the best offensive line coach, or was it maybe that he had 4- and 5-star talent to work with?
I'll tell you, Mr. Bloodline's had some good comments here today, but he lost me when he said, was the 2015 offensive line was that because of Bielema?
Yeah, that's
noted offensive line guru Brett Bielema.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, considering like when Sam Pittman left, what happened to the offensive line?
Yeah. No, I would say Sam Pittman as an offensive line coach is pretty much. Now, obviously, he's not an offensive line coach at Arkansas. Let's make that clear. He's the head coach, even though I know he's the oldest GA or whatever. But as an O-line coach, his resume was pretty full. Like, it was good. That's not a question that we have. Now, is he struggling as a head coach to develop good offensive lines? Yes, it appears so, and we can talk about that. But no, it is not. But we're not going to just throw out 40 years worth of his resume out just because the last year's O-line sucked.
That's what kind of gets me with it, because I think the most surprising thing to me about how this has all gone down is just the lack of, big time offensive line recruits that they have brought in as freshmen who have wound up being, guys who have developed and started and been, you look at the line this year, who is that guy? It's Kudus.
Yeah.
He's the only one. Everyone else is a transfer. That's an issue because it means either guys that you brought in that you evaluated and recruited and brought in, either weren't as good as you thought they were, or you haven't been able to help them realize their potential. Or in the case of guys like Chambly and Devin Manuel, like they dipped out. But to only have one homegrown guy on the projected starting offensive line, that's a little bit of an issue.
Well, and Curtis, think about that class that had, it was Patrick Kudus, Amarian Harris, who, we've heard some things about, but is not starting for them. Andrew Chambly, big time 4-star. There was one other one. There was one other notable. I'm blanking on the name. I know maybe Eli Henderson was in that class too, but they brought in 4 or 5 O linemen from that class. They're now in their third years. Those are the guys that you're counting on to be. And like you mentioned, you've got one, and he's not even practicing right now. And so, I think you're feeling the weight of that with having Andrew Chambly and Amarian Harris not being in your top group is tough.
Yeah, and also transfer port. Like I've seen people talk about transfer offensive linemen and everything. It's like it's not unheard of where you get it. Like, I always think back to Sebastian Tretola was, I thought, a really good transfer offensive lineman. He did a really good job. So it is possible, but there is a learning curve to it, because more so than any other group on the field. I know you want all 11 guys to be together, but the offensive line, those 5 guys, they have to be on the same page, or it doesn't matter. Like, you can't have just like one elite offensive lineman and then everybody else sucks, because even if you have a first round pick, number 1 overall guy at the tackle position and everybody else is average, your offensive line's going to suck. Like, it's just going to happen.
That was pretty much Arkansas in 2017 with Frank Ragnow at center.
Yep.
Like, you had a first rounder at center, and then everyone else sucked, and the offensive line sucked.
Yeah, and then like the next year with Yelda Froholt at center, and like that, it was the same type of thing too. Wade says titty is a little clickbait. No, excuse me, tittle. It's not clickbait. It was an awful scrimmage. So also, let's see. I like this. This was a joke I think Sam was making. Like,
Tittle.
Yeah, like, can we just start Chat GPT this QB this season? It'll always make the right read. Thank you. That's a great one. Let's see. Dalton says, me and a group of friends are going to the LSU game. I've already made plans to see either head coach Travis Williams or Bobby Petrino. Jeez, man.
Why? No, I like Travis Williams a lot. I don't know how he would be the interim head coach by the LSU game. I don't know, like, what would have to happen for that to play out that way.
I mean, Bobby Petrino would have to probably be.
Pittman and Petrino have both let go of the reins.
Yeah, Petrino would have had to get another motorcycle wreck for that to happen. Like,
oh, dude, that's actually your path. Pittman gets fired after week 2 because they get embarrassed so bad. Petrino takes over, gets in another motorcycle accident. Could be Travis Williams' path.
Good God Almighty! Let's just hope that doesn't happen. We don't need to go down that road again. Although it would be fun for us. Talk about the content, man. There's again nothing better than a coaching search mixed with drama from said coaching search. I mean, that would just be so perfect, so perfect. Yeah, we actually have this one too, which I think is kind of a perfect segue there into discussing some of the things that we're going to get into for what's more likely, because we usually have that type of thing. It's not like a Thursday thing, but it just kind of stayed with the Thursday thing. So, but this one came from Eureka Strings, who says, y'all want to set up an over-under on bro throw for how many weeks Sam Pittman makes it into, or how many weeks into the season Sam Pittman lasts. And I was like, man, over-under, I still think he's going to make it the whole year. Like, I do. Too. But
I would take the over on it, because I think he can last. If he's going to get fired, I think it'll be later.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think they're going to blow it up early in the season, because that would really just effectively, that would effectively kind of be like them giving up and punting. I don't think they're going to punt in week 5. No. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
unless they're 1-4.
Well, but also too, like, let's be honest, just kind of like what they did last year with Guyton. If they were to do something like that during the season, it would more than likely come during the bye week. And Arkansas plays,
which there are 2 now, right?
Yeah, Arkansas, because they play 6 straight games. Then they have a bye week after Tennessee before LSU. Then they play 3 games, and then they have a bye week, it's 2 games, and then a bye week, and then Texas. So it would either be before LSU or before Texas if something like that happened, which I would say more likely would probably be before Texas, because again, it's later into the year. But still,
I think you'd probably set the over under right around there, like that Texas week.
Yeah,
or week before Texas, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. I mean, I feel a little bit weird talking about this, because it's like, what are we doing here? I'm not big on this. And obviously I know it's a thing that is realistic and could happen. And if it does, obviously we'll cover it. But in terms of right now, following a fall camp scrimmage, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. We don't need to jump too much into that part of it too. But all right. So we'll do a little bit of what's more likely, and, talk a little bit about those things too. And we are friends, of course, with over at brothrow.com. For those of you who are like in the sports betting scene, you need to check it out, because you go head to head against real people. It's something as simple as going to brothrow.com. You see their web app, and it's so easy to use. And if you see some sort of bet that you like, a team has the over-under set at a certain number, you're like, oh, I'm definitely going over on that. Well, somebody says, you know what? I'm going to go under on that. You go head to head, bet the same amount, and whoever wins. You pay out through a Venmo or Cash App or PayPal, whatever makes it easy for you. And it's as simple as that. So instead of worrying about the house getting a huge percentage or a cut, you save a ton of money on the juice. There's no VIG. It pays even money. So it's free to sign up over at BroThrow. You must be 21 years or older, and it's available in most states. So go check it out. It's at brothrow.com. It's BroThrow, no VIG, and pays even money. Okay, so real quick, guys, just a few of these what's more likely things. we can move through them fairly quickly because I feel like they're probably going to be pretty easy on a few of them. Because to be honest, I didn't mail it in, but I did on the final two. So we'll start with the good ones here in the beginning part of it. But what's more likely? The defense gives up 20 points a game or gives up 40 points a game this season, averaging?
I'm going 20 just because 40 is a preposterous number.
Well, to me, I think 20 is a preposterous number for Arkansas.
20 is a tough. I mean, you'd have to be a good defense. But I need to go look up if they're who gave
20.
up 40 points a game last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the reason I said that is because like I feel like 30 points is like 30 points per game is kind of like right in the middle type of thing. So I'm like, all right, just 10 points more, 10 points less. What's more likely? So
yeah, I could see like Arkansas really if they're like, hey, this O-line cannot pass protect. We're just going to run the ball 80 times a game with Jaquin and Jackson. We're going to be opportunistic defensively. Like they'll just shorten the games a little bit.
And if you pitch shutouts or, you give up less than 10 points to UAPB and UAB and Louisiana Tech, like that gives you a pretty good baseline. You could then give up closer to 25, 26 a game against all the other good teams and still be closer to that, so.
Yeah, so I'm looking it up now. It looks like if Arkansas gave up 20 points per game last year, around 20 points per game would have you in like the top 15 to 25 in total scoring defense in the country. 40. I think UMass gave up 37.8 points per game last year. I can't find anybody who gave up more than that. So I think like 40 would truly be like historically
bad.
Yeah, like that would be a tough one.
Yeah, maybe I should have done it for 35
give up
points.
Like 31 to Pine Bluff.
Yeah,
to have that in play.
Yeah. Well, it's also too. You got to remember, like, man, Arkansas's offenses and who they're going to be facing this year. They're going to be facing some pretty nasty, high-scoring offenses too. So
it is true.
But yeah, it's probably more likely to be that. Okay, so we'll do this one since we kind of talked about it. But how about this? What's more likely, Sam Pittman to not be coach mid-season or to be the head coach still next season?
I mean, no disrespect. I feel like the first one is more likely.
So he's not. So you feel like it's more likely that he would not finish out this season than him being back next year?
I feel like it. Just like gun to my head, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's what we talked about and everything too, but
yeah,
still, there's a possibility.
I think I agree.
Okay.
Well, and also, like, I'm not going to, like, we don't have to, like, go into all the internet rumors. I think we all kind of are on the same page in which there's a scenario in which Arkansas has a pretty good season and he's not the head coach next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot riding on that. And so.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this one is a kind of a more fun one because I feel like offensively they at least should have something like this. But what's more likely? Arkansas to have a 250-yard rusher in a game or a 500-yard passer in a game?
250 rusher.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And it would have
I mean, dude, that's one thing that has been happening dating back to the spring. And I mean, it sounds like it happened with Braylon Russell in the scrimmage today. Arkansas gives up chunk rush plays here and there. I think they're maybe super aggressive up front defensively with where they're going. So sometimes there's just huge gash things happen. And so maybe, I know that's more about Arkansas's defense, but I think we've seen a lot of big runs in spring and fall camp. And so it's like, I think Arkansas is going to have run game wise, like even if the offensive line is just okay, they should still be able to run the ball at least somewhat well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just for reference too, for everybody, Arkansas has only had one player who has thrown for over 500 yards in a game.
And it was Tyler Wilson in Arlington.
Yeah, that's right. 510. And it's kind of crazy because, you would think that all the 400 plus yard games that Arkansas had was all Bobby Petrino's players. And a lot of them are, but actually Brandon Allen's second on the list for 442 yards against Ole Miss in 2015. Then Tyler Wilson, then Brandon Allen, then Ryan Mallett, Brandon Allen, Ryan Mallett, Austin Allen. So kind of a nice little mix there of guys.
Allen did it against Bama, didn't he?
Which Allen are you referring to?
Austin.
Yeah,
he
2016 Bama.
Bama, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, did against 2016 Bama, and it was 400 yards exactly. So, and then finally, this was one actually that a buddy of mine wanted us to ask, and so we'll see. But he was like, "What's more likely over the next 5 years, Arkansas to make the 12-team playoff in football, or for Arkansas to win a national championship in basketball and baseball?"
Sheesh. Man, that's a good one.
I know it is a good one.
This is the best question I've ever been asked.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
Like, because that's funny, because basically what the part of this game and coming up with these questions is like thinking of, okay, what's likely, but what's likely here, and then just add it to where it really makes it extreme and balances it out.
I'm gonna believe it or not.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Arkansas to make the 12-team playoff. The reason why is because it's a lot more feasible to make a 12-team playoff than a 4-team playoff. I mean, theoretically, like if you have that one-off season and you go, like even if you go 9-3 in the SEC, like at the end of the year, you're going to be on that bubble of, getting one of those final spots there. So I think I'm gonna lean that way.
Dude,
actually,
am I correct in thinking Missouri would have been in a 12-team playoff last year?
It would have.
Yeah.
And obviously, Missouri had an awesome year. I'm not saying that as a diss to Missouri, but I'm like that, like Arkansas having a one-off season like that in the next 5 years seems pretty feasible. I don't think it'll happen necessarily, but it's like, that seems like where it's like, it just takes kind of everything coming together for 1 year. Basketball and baseball over the next 5 years, that's going to be tough, man. Like just doing one is going to be tough. But I don't know. I'm going football. Football. I think Arkansas can make a 12-team playoff at 10-2.
Dude, it just made me happy that like when you brought up Curtis, we get to have bubble talk in college football playoffs. Get to talk about teams on the bubble of getting into the playoffs. I also like
this comment from Eureka Drinks. He said, "We're going to need an entire staff overhaul to sniff 9-3."
It's part of my thought process, bub.
Like 5 years, literally that could happen in 6 months.
I will guarantee you that Sam Pittman will not be Arkansas's head coach in 5 years.
No.
Right. So it's like, that's kind of what we're talking about.
In fact, just since you brought up, the only coach that I feel like I could feel good about saying that they're going to be here over the next 5 years is going to be Cal.
Yeah.
I think he has a better, I think if I were putting the odds, I would give him like the -110.
Yeah. Because even Dave, basing it off just his age, and everything, seems like Dave could retire in the next 5 years.
We're old man shaming on the program now.
Listen, sometimes you just. Sometimes, well,
it's like saying he's going to win a national title this year and then ride off into the sunset a year later is what you're saying, right?
Yes, that for sure. For sure. Yeah.
He's going to have to be in the nursing home soon. I'm like,
he's going to have to be in bed by 5 a.m. every day or 5 p.m. every day.
Coach Cal brings so much stability where we're like, he'll definitely be here in 5 years.
Who wanted you to ask that question?
What's that?
Who wanted you to ask that question?
Oh, it was my buddy Forrest.
Okay. Well done, Forrest.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just taken credit for it and just been, you'd be like, hey, good one, John. That's a good question you asked. So we're going to go through the schedule real quick too, of going through the most difficult games. I want to give a shout out though to Hunter over here, giving us a little props, a little support here for Inside Arkansas. Says it's going to be the 1998 season, hopefully with one less turnover.
I was about to say, so we're going to have one of the worst losses in school history take place.
Yeah. But I want to be, just make me cry all over again. Like I was a 10-year-old kid again. I can't wait for that. But
would you really I would rather have that than, another San Jose State or whatever,
The 2012 season is like one I still have nightmares about.
If you're good enough to have a loss that makes you cry, I want to get back to that.
There you go. That was, I want to be. That was beautiful, Curtis. That was beautiful.
I've only cried from a loss twice in Razorback sports history. There only been twice, and one of them was 1998 Clint Sterner. The other one was when I was in college at 2010, Bahama. I cried after that.
I had a buddy over during that Bama game, and I locked myself in my room and told my mom, I was like, take him home. Get him out of here. Get him out of my face.
Take him home.
But I cried during the ULM game, and I was there in person. And all I could think about was having to go back to school Monday and having everyone shame me for Arkansas losing to ULM. Oh, man.
Dude, yeah, that's a rough feel. It's tough to come over. But no, Hunter, appreciate the support and anything, which, if we're not out here extorting money, but if you're ever wanting to help support the cause and everything, we're always going to be extremely appreciative for any of you that do that. So definitely thank you so much, Hunter. We appreciate that. Okay.
Wait, we have a very important news.
What's up?
Mama Armstrong loves our show.
Hey,
Mama Armstrong loves our show. What's
appreciate
up?
it. Appreciate it.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Okay, there was that one time we thought we had Andrew in the chat. I'm now
Yeah.
beginning to think that it was Andrew.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% sure it was.
Well then, heck yeah, man. We
We
been
enjoy
talking-
your son.
Yeah.
He's very good at football.
Yes, he is. Well, and it's funny too, because I wanted to make sure I phrased this right, but we're very popular among players' moms. Just saying.
I don't think you phrased that right.
Yeah, that sounded weirder than you meant it to sound.
Yeah, no, that was the thing is I kept trying to think of a way to say it without it sounding weird, but I'm like, I'm just going to say it and then let y'all try to say, hey, you should have said this instead.
No,
that way it makes it.
I don't have anything better, but yeah.
We appreciate the players and their families. Let's just say that. Okay?
Yes, yeah, not just the moms, all of them, all of them that they're out there doing.
And by the way, I want to speaking of player parents, I want to shout out the Metcalf's father. I love that dude.
Dude, it's always in it, man.
Guy. And I also want to shout him out because did y'all catch that Sam Pittman just low key planted a little seed and said that TJ Metcalf and Hudson Clark are in a little bit of a battle for that safety spot.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah.
I thought that was notable. And for everyone all these years who has been just dog cussing Hudson Clark every Saturday and tweeting at us about why he sucks and all that, what we've always been saying is if they had better options, they would be playing those better options. And we felt like Hudson Clark is a competent option, and that's why they've been playing him. But I feel like that should give some fans a little bit of a boost of like, hey, you want your younger guys to kind of step up and take charge. And it seems like TJ as a sophomore is on track to doing that. And Tevis had a pick in the scrimmage too. Do we have 3 Metcalf picks in the scrimmage today?
We did. Yeah.
That's a big deal, man. Obviously,
I like the battle brewing. Hat trick Huddy and 2-pick TJ going at it in camp.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's beautifully done. Like Curtis is on one today, coming up with some things, man. Like he's killing it over here.
Somebody's got to get in their Scotty bag with this stuff because he was the one.
Really good.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, hey, Hunter comes in again. Look at this guy over here.
Hunter is funding our next vacation, man. That's
huge. He says one other thing. Who threw all those interceptions? Because that's alarming. Either we got a damn good backfield or there's a question at the helm.
Well, they didn't specify on like who exactly threw what. Yeah. But we kind of went through who got the interceptions earlier. And I mean, I think it's fair to say Green played a role in those, but no, I mean, he didn't throw all of them. You could tell. I mean, I think KJ Jackson and Boda, like those guys are probably guilty of a decent amount of those too. So it wasn't like Taylor Green and Singleton went out there and threw 8 interceptions, but I think it's fair to say they were probably victimized.
He said Taylor played a role. Played a role in
it.
And
he was involved. Yeah.
Yes, he was. Also, before we get to schedule too, I want to drink stuff because this guy keeps says Johnny Jari quit on Bo and Chuck. Yeah, yesterday's opening for Curtis and Andrew, I didn't really know what to expect. But when I went back and I was listening to it, I'm like, good. That was great. But
well, we finally hit that 24-hour mark. We were able to file a missing persons report, and they found John right before he showed up on milk cartons. So we're thankful for that.
Yep.
They delivered him back to us safely.
Yep. They just found me
talking to, and we were like, don't leave us again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and also like as much as I love Chuck and Bo, I couldn't leave Curtis and Andrew. I mean, come on, that would. It's like I wasn't drafted.
I love Arkansas sports. Me, Curtis, Bo, and Chuck. Yeah, it's a tough decision.
Yeah, it really is. And plus, the whole like waking up at 4:30 every morning, not my thing anymore. So. Yeah. Don't have to worry about that. All right. So we talked about this as far as ranking, just having some fun with it. The schedule this year, we know it's set in stone. We know what the games are. We know where they're at. We know everything about it. We're starting to get an idea of what this team's all about. But there are games that are going to be more difficult than others. So all of us here together have decided to give our rankings for the toughest games on the schedule, ranking them like 1 through 12. So I guess number 1, of course, being the toughest, and number 12 being the least toughest. I'm not going to say easiest because it's never easy. So we'll do a little countdown. We'll see how much we stack up with each other and see how it goes. But let's start, of course, with the easiest. Number 12. I feel like we're probably all going to be in agreement on this one. But Curtis, I'll let you go ahead and kick us off. Who do you have as the easiest or least tough game for Arkansas this year?
Yeah, I'm not even going to say anything sarcastic here. It's UAPB. I mean...
Yep.
I have
There we
A&M,
go.
but I can hear the case for UAPB.
Yeah.
I saw a chart that had like it ranked all of the FCS teams, and I think UAPB was the third worst, and the two that were below them were like the Sisters of the Blind and the School for Deaf Children or something like that. So it was like elite company for them. I don't think that there's FCS teams that like you don't want to see on your schedule. I do not think UAPB is one of them. I think you do want to see UAPB on your schedule.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we're all in agreement there.
Yep.
Now, number 11. Curtis, who do you have at number 11?
Sorry, Andrew. Louisiana
No,
Tech.
you're making the wrong decision, dude.
Louisiana Tech, buddy. I could have gone either way with them or UAB. I went with Louisiana Tech because I got to take a shot at my guy.
Do you agree, Andrew?
He got mad and quit.
Oh, he just quit on us.
He
Wow.
got mad and quit.
That's all it took, dude. He was out. He was out like a light. I'm not even going to remove his camera. I'm just going to leave that image. Oh, wait. Yeah, he's coming back. He's
Dang
back.
I thought y'all froze. Curtis,
Yeah.
I thought Curtis stopped mid-sentence. I was like, what the heck's going on? Curtis just froze on me.
Yeah. No. So we were like,
You're
man.
definitely wrong about that, Curtis. UAB is worse.
We'll see.
Okay.
Trent Dilfer, come on.
Well, I have UAB as well, but it has nothing to do with taking shots at you. It's just more because it's UAB. But
yeah,
still,
well,
I respect it.
I'm kind of anti Louisiana Tech football. I've kind of did my whole soapbox on Skip Holtz and how they shouldn't have fired him, and so I'm kind of out on the program. I think they stink, and I will say now that I really think about it, playing them later in the year probably helps.
Yeah.
Yep, he's going to keep freezing on us, man. He's just going to keep freezing on us. Yeah, he needs to pay his internet bill, I guess.
Yeah,
and do that
because like it's really hard to
get that taken care of. My goodness, man, he's over here just losing it. But either way, it's all good. We'll just continue it on because I feel like we're probably in the same spot. Number 10. So Curtis, I assume that's going to be your UAB.
Yeah,
assume that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. UAB at 10.
And Andrew, you're going to have Louisiana Tech.
Yes.
Okay, me too. So we're all pretty much, at least as far as the easiest 3 games.
Obviously. Now it gets fun.
Yeah. Now it gets where number 9. And Andrew, I'll have you start before you get pissed and freeze again. So what's number 9 for you?
I got Starkville. I got the Starkville trip against Mississippi State. Road is tough, but I feel like Mississippi State's the worst SEC team on the schedule. Just kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I too have Mississippi State on the road for all of those exact reasons. So we are locked in step right there.
Mm-hmm.
That too. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
About what?
The Cody Kennedy's their line coach.
That's right.
Fun.
Yeah. Man, listen, I'm not going to try to throw stones or anything, but like if you're Jeff Lebby and everything and you're Mississippi State, I know Mississippi State, but I'm like, what did you see at Arkansas with Cody Kennedy that made you be like, I don't want that guy as my offensive line coach? Like, I was just, okay, buddy, whatever. Anyways, I think, so we're all in agreement there. Okay. Number 8, Curtis, what's the 8th toughest game on Arkansas schedule?
This is where it started to get pretty tricky for me. Yeah. And honestly, like, it's almost like 4 through 8 or even 3 through 8 could be interchangeable. But I actually went with another road game at Auburn.
Okay.
Is where I'm at there. Cause I don't know. I'm not buying it yet. Yeah. At Auburn.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
All right. What about you, Andrew?
I went with a weird one here.
Okay.
The Texas A&M Aggies. First year head coach, neutral site, early enough in the year to where like they won't have found their groove yet. I just felt like picking one of the road games, they're all going to be tough. I mean, pretty tough. But I was between them and Auburn, so I think we're kind of on the right track. But I think A&M is kind of low key winnable.
Well, it's funny you went with the weird one because I did too. Because I also chose Texas A&M, and one of the reasons being is because I know that game in Arlington is so dumb, and it's been one of the most like crazy things where not every game, but more often than not, Arkansas has been the team that either should have won, was in a position to win, and just didn't because they blew it, they choked, whatever. However, this is the only reason I'm picking this game is because when Bobby Petrino is involved in this Southwest Classic, the team that he's on the sidelines with is undefeated. So 3-0 with Arkansas, 1-0 with A&M. I'm going to just roll with Bobby to be that too. So, okay. So that being said, I'll go ahead and I'll do my first go first on this one. Next one's Auburn for me, number 7. Just because Hugh Freeze has had Sam Pittman's number. I mean, obviously, beat the brakes off of him last year, won with Liberty, and but earlier in the year, Auburn still, there's just nothing about them that I'm like, man, they're going to be so much better. Peyton Thorne's, I think, still their quarterback. Not to say they're a bad team at all, but comparatively speaking to the rest of the teams, I got Auburn as 7.
There's some winnability to that game for sure. Texas A&M was 7 for me. So,
okay,
one spot different. That I was really torn between those two, and yeah.
Okay, Andrew, same with
I had Auburn as well. So yeah,
okay.
I think we're pretty much all aligned, at least on the teams that we think are the easiest, the most winnable games.
Yeah. Now this one to me is where, like, for me at least, it got toughest is getting here to the top half of the most difficult teams on the schedule. And so for this one, Curtis, number 6, who are you saying is the toughest team? 6th toughest team.
I actually went with LSU here.
Okay.
Reason being, I just, Jaden Daniels ain't walking back through that door. So I wonder if there's going to be a level of drop off there. They're obviously still going to be very talented, but I also like that it is a post-bye game for Arkansas and it's at home. Arkansas under Pittman's been really good coming off of a bye week. So they kind of go through that gauntlet. They got 6 straight games. They play Tennessee, but that's a home game. And then you get a bye and then you get LSU at home. So I like that one there.
Mm-hmm.
Could have gone a number of ways, but I went with LSU.
That's such a good idea that I wish I would have done it, but I went with Oklahoma State. Early week 2, right out the gate. So I could be proven wrong immediately, but I think Oklahoma State's, it's not like they're the super well-rounded team. Bowman is 97 years old. I know they have a fantastic running back, but it seems to me like their offense kind of took a little bit of a step back last year. It's not like your Oklahoma State that's going to be scoring 45, 50 points on everyone. I think it'll probably be a pretty close game and a tough one to win, but I have Oklahoma State just because of how early it is. It's like, I feel like it being early kind of helps.
Well,
and it's 11 a.m.
I'm going to go with a different one than all of y'all. I'm going with Tennessee. Okay. And the reason being for me, and again, want to reiterate, no one's saying that these teams suck, like that Tennessee sucks. I'm not saying that. But I just feel like when Josh Heupel, really was getting it going a couple of years ago at Tennessee and everything, I think that people are starting to maybe figure out the offense a little bit more. Still a good offense, but figuring out just a little bit more. I think since it's at home, there's not a whole lot of familiarity between these two teams because they haven't played each other. And also if Arkansas can just make it to where they're through those first 5 games, if they're like 4-1 through those first 5 games, that atmosphere against Tennessee is going to be incredible. And I think that could play a factor into it. So I got Tennessee as the 6th toughest game. 5th, Andrew, who do you have? Number 5, top 5.
So I should have had LSU like lower or higher on this list, however you want to say, but I went Tennessee in this spot for a lot of the same reasons you just said, but also Tennessee has got a high level offense that likes to get out and likes to be fast, likes to throw the ball. I feel like it's an offense that doesn't travel super well. So I think like a lot of that, and it being kind of early in the season, youngish quarterback, a first year starter. And so I think Arkansas kind of catches Tennessee at it's not a great spot for Arkansas because it's in the middle of that gauntlet, but it's like, I think that if you're going to play Tennessee at home and early is probably the time to do it.
Curtis?
Oklahoma State. Yeah, okay. I've got Oklahoma State there. It's going to be interesting, man. I just don't know what that atmosphere will be like, comparatively speaking, to some other place you go in the SEC. But I feel like Arkansas could travel fairly well to that game. It is going to be a sellout, but it's early in the season, week 2. I would imagine you're feeling pretty good about yourself coming off a healthy win against UAPB. You've got extra days of preparation because you're playing that game on a Thursday. And Oklahoma State, they are playing the defending national champions, from the lower rank there. So, I mean, they should be able to handle that, but they'll be pushed a little bit there. So I think that lines up pretty well for Arkansas, even though it's a road game, it's close in proximity. So I feel decent about that one.
Well, my number 5, and I'm sure no one's going to give me a hard time for this, Missouri. I got Missouri
Not a bad pick.
at number 5. And the reason being, yes, people know about my history with Missouri. I think appreciate and Eli Drinkwitz, me living rent free in his head because he keeps mentioning me, like all the kids say. But either way, I think that Missouri, give them credit. They had a great year, but I just don't know if it's sustainable enough. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. And I don't know. I feel like Pittman hates Eli Drinkwitz. I think Bobby, he hates Missouri. I just think that there's going to be some at the end of that year where Missouri's not going to be as good. And if Arkansas is actually having a good season, I think that a little revenge is had. Not saying I'm not predicting Arkansas to win right now, but I'm just saying if we're going in rankings, I got them as the fifth toughest one, which
I don't hate it. I mean, I think you can make it. Missouri's the one I didn't really know what to do with because you can I could see the argument for them being higher, lower, like whatever. It being at the end of the year kind of throws me off because I'm like, who the hell knows what's going to be happening there? And Sam Pittman should hate Eli Drinkwitz because he's been bullying him for years.
Yeah, well, that too, and also my favorite thing is we stand on business and then running away from Josh Heupel. Like Josh Heupel, come on, man, like doing all that stuff. That dude's a clown. So, anyways, that being said, number 4, I'll start. Means Oklahoma State. I got them as the number 4 toughest team. And the main thing with them is like, I feel like Arkansas plays better earlier in the year and they have under Sam Pittman. But dude, week 2, it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot over there in Stillwater. It's an 11 a.m. game. But I think it's going to be, I also think it's going to be an overtime game because my girl Taylor McGregor is going to be on sidelines for that. She's only done 2 games for Arkansas and both of them went to overtime. Florida last year and the Arkansas-Kansas Liberty Bowl. So it's probably going to be crazy and maddening, but I think that's the fourth toughest one for Arkansas.
Arkansas getting 2 extra days to prepare too. I mean,
that's true. That's true. Well, and then hopefully UAPB they shouldn't have to prepare much for. So hopefully, but yeah,
we don't overlook anyone, John.
Yeah. He's a load now. But okay, so that's my number 4. Curtis, who's your number 4?
I've got Tennessee here.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a pretty tough game for Arkansas. It's the 6th game in as many weeks for them. And so I think about a high octane, high flying offense. And I think about a team that's, playing a 6 game in 6 weeks. They just traveled to Auburn. Then they just traveled to that neutral site to play Texas A&M. And so we're going to hear we're pretty banged up now. And you're going to be playing, an offense that can throw 50 on you real quick. And I also think I would prefer to play Tennessee later in the year because it's almost like those Lane Kiffin offenses. When it gets cold outside, it feels like those guys lose a little bit of steam. I kind of feel the same way about Tennessee. October 5th, it's going to feel nice. They're going to be able to throw the ball around. I like that it's at home, but I think that one is a little bit more tricky than maybe some others do.
Okay,
yeah, it is kind of funny how like you just view these games so differently preseason than when they come on the schedule, you're like, oh damn, like I really don't want this one kind of sucks. Hopefully I don't feel that way about this game because I think it's my turn to tell my 4th.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I should have had this team lower on this list or higher on this list, however you want to say it. The more I've listened to y'all talk and just kind of thinking about it, Arkansas is going to beat LSU by like 13 at home. LSU sucks, man. It's a shameful program full of bad people that do bad things. Their athletic department has had scumbag after scumbag come through there. It's just not a good place. There's a lot of bad things that happen on that campus. And, some of my best friends went there, and I love those guys, but even they would agree. It's a shameful place. Garrett Nussmeier. Do y'all remember Garrett Nussmeier had to play in that Arkansas game in 2021? I believe it was. They benched Max Johnson and put a true freshman, Garrett Nussmeier, in the game. And he made some plays against Arkansas, but he also threw 2 god-awful interceptions that cost LSU the game. He's a wild card. He's a talented kid, but he's a wild card who's now kind of stepping into a starting role. Tiger fans are convinced he's going to be a star. I think on the road, he's going to throw 3 picks against Arkansas, and they're going to beat him. But I had them. I say all that to say I had them as the 4th toughest game on the schedule. I wish I had put them way higher on this list.
All right. So moving through it. So it sounds like all of us, well, and I guess no, that won't be the case. So, okay, we'll start with number 3. Curtis, your 3rd toughest team.
That one's going to be at Mizzou for me.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I mean, I understand your feelings for Missouri, John, and Andrew, you call me a Missouri homer, but
you love them, dude. You love them.
I mean, they're really good, and they kick Arkansas's ass all the time. Guess who's never won in Columbia? Arkansas. Okay. And it's late in the year, and we talk about that getting weird or whatever. Missouri's coming off of a great season. They got a lot of really, really good pieces back. They're going to be that team. If you look at their schedule sucks. At the end of the year, there's a very realistic chance that they could be playing Arkansas for an opportunity to get into that college football playoff, that 12-team playoff, and it's a home game. I don't know. I don't like that one at all. Luther Burden scares the crap out of me, and I think they're going to have a lot to play for. And so, hey, yeah, if they do take some bumps early and they don't meet expectations, everything you guys said, I feel like is right. Then it's game on. But looking at their schedule, I feel like they almost got kind of a cakewalk situation here. I think it's going to be a really, really tough one. I almost ranked it number 2, actually.
Okay.
I have them in the same spot, Curtis. I have them as the 3rd toughest game, Missouri. For a lot of the same reasons you just said, like late in the season on the road, Arkansas, who knows what, like Arkansas could have a different head coach, could be, what it could be 4-7, could be 6-5, could be whatever. Like, I don't think Arkansas is going to have a ton of stakes in the game unless they're, of course, 5-6. Then it kind of changes it a little bit. But I think Arkansas just historically underachieves against Missouri, particularly on the road. And so it's like, however good I think this Arkansas team is, they're going to be worse against Missouri because they just always are. And I think Drink gets up for that Arkansas game because he remembers bullying Stu Hogg at Springdale High School. And I don't know what it is, man. I just think Missouri has Arkansas's number. And until they show me that they don't, I don't know. I have a hard time believing Arkansas is going to play well against Missouri because it feels like insanity at this point. And that's a definition of doing the same thing and expecting different results. Arkansas plays their worst game of the year against Missouri like every other year, just about.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not predicting Arkansas is going to beat Missouri kind of for the same reason, because until they do. But it's more of just like Drinkwitz has had a losing season every year. He's been at Missouri except for last year. So I want to see if that's a sustainable, or was it just that one magical year where it all came together? My number 3 is actually Ole Miss. And the reason being is because for whatever reason, Arkansas, since Lane Kiffin's been there, they've either beat the brakes off Ole Miss or they've lost barely. And at home, Arkansas has beaten the brakes off of Ole Miss. And there's just something about it. The game's always been crazy. Historically, it's always been crazy. It's probably going to be the same way this year. Ole Miss is good, but I don't know. There's just something about that Arkansas game that's always weird, especially when it's later in the year. So I'm saying that's number 3 for me is the Ole Miss Rebels. Okay, number 2, Andrew.
So I have the Texas Longhorns here. I don't, and look, I say I have them below Ole Miss, I guess. Like I have Ole Miss as the hardest one, but I think both these games are both at home, but like the hardest games on the schedule. I think they're probably the best teams on the schedule. I think Texas is going to be very motivated after the way that it played out at Arkansas a couple years ago. It's later in the year, which I feel like means you're kind of less likely to get caught slipping a little bit in November because it's, early in the year when things are a little bit easier for opposing teams. I feel like it's just going to be Texas is not going to get caught napping in November. Who knows where they're going to be at on their schedule of if they're 9-1 or whatever. But I think Texas is just going to be a really tough one. And I think they're the second toughest game on the schedule.
Okay, Curtis.
I've got Ole Miss here as the number 2, but I agree with I think they're just the second best team that Arkansas is going to play. But it's almost like one of those deals where you throw the records out when these two teams get together. It's just always a crazy game. Always weird, maybe in a lot of cases, always closer than we expect given where the teams are at. But man, they're loaded. I mean, that offense has a lot of weapons for Lane Kiffin to work with. I have no idea where Arkansas is going to be at that point. On one hand, I look at it and I'm looking at the schedule and I can see a pathway to where, like Arkansas comes off a bye. It would not shock me if they beat LSU and then won at Mississippi State. And so then you're kind of feeling really good about yourself going into that game. And I don't know, maybe you run into a little bit of a different situation there, but Ole Miss is tough, man. And I think that they're going to be a team. If Lane Kiffin's going to get it done, he's going to get into the college football playoff and have a legit shot at, maybe winning the thing. This would kind of be his year. And I don't know that this is the Arkansas team that would derail that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of agreeing with Andrew on Texas at number 2. I think Texas is really good, but I just don't think that they're going to be this, I'm telling you right now, this is not me just, starting the chant of SEC, but I feel like Oklahoma and Texas, when they have to go through this gauntlet of the SEC, it's going to be an adjusting period. Like, it's going to take a little bit, because if anybody remembers, like when Missouri and A&M joined, A&M had a great year in their first year at the SEC, but why? Because they had a guy named Johnny Manziel. Like that's why. But Missouri really struggled. They went 5-7 in their first year in the SEC. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a drop off. I think it's going to be tough, especially later in the year. Arkansas is coming off of a bye too into that Texas game. Yeah. And if Arkansas has even got a decent season going on, the energy, the atmosphere, and everything's going to be crazy good, even though it's at 11 a.m., which sucks. But still, I think Texas is going to be the second toughest game for Arkansas on this schedule.
Pittman low-key is great with the bye week. I mean, he mentioned it today. Yeah. He likes to tell him to talk about it, but they've been really good off bye weeks, and they've been pretty good in openers throughout his tenure. And so, yeah, that is definitely notable.
Yeah.
But I want to say I think Quinn Ewers is probably the best quarterback Arkansas is going to face all year.
Yeah,
I think that's another one where it's like older quarterback coming in November with his team with a lot to play for. I just, and I think they're going to be highly motivated. I don't see Texas slipping in that one.
Yeah, well, I'm also going to throw in. I'll just go ahead and knock out the number one because it's the only team I have left.
Yeah, who's your number one?
LSU.
Oh, John, they're gonna beat LSU by 2 touchdowns, dude. Come on.
Now here's my whole reasoning behind this is because I'm not trying to like say that Arkansas is going to get smoked by LSU or whatever. But in my own personal experience, the years where I felt like LSU was going to be beatable, gettable, whatever, were the years every single time that they've been really good. I thought that in 2019, that LSU team that was like one of the greatest LSU football teams ever assembled, I thought that they were going to be average. They weren't. I also thought that in, I guess it was, I forgot which year I'm even referring to, but there was another year during the Ed Orgeron era where they actually were really good. And thought that I was going to be bad. So I started feeling that same.
That 2019. It was 2018.
Yes, that's probably when it was. Yeah. So like I'm doing it mainly because I felt that same way about them this year because I'm like, oh, they're not going to be it. But I'm like, every time I do that, they end up being really good. That's the only reason why I'm doing it is just because it's a personal. It's like opposite day going against my gut instinct because it's failed me before. So that's why I have LSU number one.
LSU does always have talent, man. They always do.
They do that. The reason Texas is my number one and the reason that they are prepared to make this transition into the SEC is because of what Arkansas did to them the last time they played. That was the wake-up call. And since then, we've seen what they've been able to do. I think they are the most talented team Arkansas is going to play. They have the best quarterback. And I also think that they're going to be one of the most motivated to come in and play Arkansas after that. And I think they're going to be in a situation where, again, they're playing for an opportunity late in the season to solidify themselves as a college football playoff team. So for me, at least my evaluation, Texas was the no-brainer here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like while we've been talking about it, I've kind of been talking myself into Texas being the hardest one. The bye week is kind of why I'm leaning towards
That's
that
fair.
one not being.
Yeah.
But I have Ole Miss as the toughest game, and I know for anyone that's going to respond and be like, well, Arkansas plays Ole Miss pretty well. Like, guys, I've been covering the football team. I know. I'm aware that Arkansas plays very well against Ole Miss, particularly in Razorback Stadium. I understand that it's been a matchup that they just seem to rise to the occasion in, but I just think Ole Miss is the best team on Arkansas' schedule. I really like Lane Kiffin a lot. I wanted him to be Arkansas's head coach back in the day. I wish he were Arkansas's head coach right now. I think he's a stud. I think he's a great offensive mind, obviously, but I also think he's built a real roster, and they've added a lot. They've got a nice little mix of guys they've recruited, transfer guys on the defensive end. I think that he's got that program cooking really well. I think they're going to have an awesome year. I think they're going to go to the playoff. I think they're probably going to go to the SEC championship game. If I had to guess, I think they're going to be that good. And so I don't think they're losing to Arkansas, despite it being in Fayetteville. And I think it could be it's not going to be an easy game for Ole Miss necessarily, but I think Arkansas, that's the best team on their schedule, and I think it's going to be a hard one. I also think that that plays it. There's some motivation there because Lane Kiffin knows he's underachieved in this matchup a little bit, even though they won last year. And they got embarrassed the last time they came to Razorback Stadium, and that's going to sit with them a little bit.
And remember how cold it was the last time they came to Razorback Stadium? November 2nd, it's probably still going to be decent out. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, and it's an early kick too, 11 a.m. or noon. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be
also, Arkansas's bye week is the next week, right?
Yep.
That's always a red flag. Like when you have the bye week, the week after, teams are always kind of like limping into that situation. Now I know you have 2 bye weeks this year, but Arkansas historically has played garbage going into a bye week. Now they play great coming out of it, but going into it, they don't play well.
Well, there you have it. So just to recap our toughest game, I have LSU, and then Curtis, you have Texas, and then Andrew has Ole Miss. So
all different. It's good.
Because I'm like, I kind of had a feeling like our first 3 were going to be pretty much on board and the same. And we only had a few. I think we only had like 4 of them that actually were exactly the same.
I mean, dude, I will say, and we said this at the top, like a lot of these games are very interchangeable. Like I have A&M as one of the easiest quote unquote games. A&M, we might watch them 2 weeks into the season and be like, holy crap, this team's super talented. Elko's doing a great job. Their defense is loaded. That might become one of the toughest games on the schedule. So it's like, I'm sure opposing fan bases are going to take this and run with it. But it's like, a lot of these games are very interchangeable. I was changing my list while we were doing it. Some of this.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Opposing fan bases never like hold on to things and clip things and make you like hear about them all the time. They never do that.
Definitely don't take things personally.
No,
that's one thing this Arkansas fan base would never do is take something personal.
Not at all. Not at all. We just got a few minutes left. I wanted to bring this up, guys. So Justice Hill, remember him? He has tweeted this out last night. It says full circle, beyond grateful for the opportunity. One last ride. In MKY, where he is heading back to Murray State to play football.
What a weird decision to make like a week before the season starts.
Yeah. And it's wild.
Listen, if Monte Harrison can take a decade off from high school football to go play professional baseball and then come back and be a factor at wide receiver in the SEC, then Justice Hill can play 4 or 5 years of college basketball and then go be a good football player at Murray State.
Justice Hill was a phenomenal football player, by the way. Phenomenal.
Really good.
Like talent wise, absolutely. I would not be stunned if he like actually had some moments. Am I correct in thinking that Justice Hill was committed to play basketball for Mike Anderson at Arkansas?
He was.
Oh yeah. I do not remember that drama.
Him still playing collegiate athletics and now being a college quarterback in 2024 is nuts.
Yeah. Do you not remember that drama, Andrew, of him?
Oh, I remember the drama. Okay. I was just making sure that we were all aware that like a guy who was who played technically for Mike Anderson is now still playing college sports. It's wild.
Yeah, because I think that if I'm not mistaken, that was kind of one of the things that when Hunter Yurchek sat down with Mike Anderson, it's like, okay, so you lost Daniel Gafford, and the only player you're bringing in is Justice Hill to like help with that. Okay, it didn't work out, but who knows? Maybe it'll work out for Justice going over there too. A few comments real quick. Man, Hunter's over here just balling out, man. He's just shedding the ones over here that it's like we're in the club.
Hunter win the lottery.
Yeah, dude. Hunter's the man. He's also talking about like it's going to be in the 98 season for Arkansas, but he also said, or this could be the 07 season. You have a quarterback that is your running back, but the irony is Jaquindon Jackson's going to start throwing and it's going to be like McFadden all over again.
I love that. I love that. 93 throw power. Don't forget.
Yep, that's true. I wonder what they're, because it was the Wildcat with Malzahn. Then it was the Wild Hog with Nut. So I don't know. Maybe
the Wild Jack.
The Wild Jack.
Quentin Jackson.
Yeah. Dude, if it works. How
about the Wild Back? Wild apostrophe back.
Wild back.
Like Razorback, like Wild Back.
Because don't you remember, like everything was about the Wild, when they did the Dolphins, it was the Wild Fin. And like they're just like, okay, everyone stop. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like
running back Ronnie Hill.
No, it was Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown, from Auburn,
yeah. So it was called the Wild Fin because David Lee left Arkansas after Nutt was fired to be. So it's just like everyone just kept throwing stuff around. But either way, also want to give a shout out to our friend Carlton, who is upstairs, and he's out in Vegas right now, and he's listening and everything. So. Appreciate him. And
I like that he said Nevada, not Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it's Vegas. I'm pretty sure it's, he's in Vegas. So, but yeah, Nevada. I mean, because nothing against the fine city of Reno and everything, but I feel like if you're in Nevada, you probably need to be in Vegas.
Carlton's a hustler, man. He's smiling and dialing at all times.
Burning
and burning.
Yeah.
Those Red Bull, I mean, he's crushing those Red Bulls too.
Dude, snapping necks and cashing checks. Our guy Carlton over there. So, but I wanted to kind of give an update on that because I know a lot of people have discussed that and discussed what's all been going on. So
yeah, man, oh man.
But apparently Oaklawn has resorted to attacking Carlton personally by name as a bad person, including trying to call the Quapaw leadership in order to back him off. Apparently, that's how hard they're fighting to block the proposal that would help the Hogs with NIL. And all because they don't have the technology to do the same. So it comes down to just not having the technology for it. But
they're getting the tribes involved here.
Yeah, dude. When you get the natives involved, man, it's going a little over the top. But like David Basil last night was putting out tweets, but deleted it. Wally Hall's writing articles and stuff. But apparently everyone's ruined their credibility because everyone's going out for Oakland, being a shill for Oakland and everything, but trying to hurt the Hogs, and all because they are not ready to offer what apparently Saracen is. So if you've ever seen Fatal Attraction, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Fatal Attraction. Have you? Close. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, this is like the boiled rabbit from that movie.
Oh my God.
Oakland is essentially saying that Saracen's not ready to do it, but they're going to block anyone else that can. So anyways, it's like, here's the thing. When it all comes to all this stuff, because I'm sure like you guys have been asked about all that. My thing is like, you could choose a side, you could say who's right, who's wrong, or anything like that. My thing is, I want the Razorbacks to be good. And if that means more NIL money, then I am all for that. Like, I know there's a lot of other stuff with the online gaming and all that, but because it not only makes everything in the state better, it makes like our business here better when the Hogs are good. It makes everyone happier when the Hogs are good. And so I'm all for the NIL and everything, but it's just, it's kind of crazy how it's gone.
I mean, I think it's a lot more complex than I ever would have imagined on the surface. And obviously it's very political. We're finding that out, but at the end of the day, I'm with you. If it's something that can benefit the natural state as a whole, or NIL and the athletic programs, if there's a way to do that, do it. And like I said, when he was on the show with us, it just seems like Arkansas has been playing catch up since NIL became a thing. And we see all these different, first it was the collectives and how great of an idea that was. And it's just everyone else has kind of been on the forefront, innovative, whatever. And this just seems like an opportunity where Arkansas could get out ahead of something and be out in front of something.
Yep.
And of course, there are going to be obstacles that have to be overcome. Of course, there are going to have to be things that you have to figure out to make sure that it's all on the up and up, whatever. Do it. Just make it happen. This is a great opportunity, and hopefully they can get it all worked out.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I get having questions. I get having concerns. Like, we talked about some of them on the show the other day. Like, I understand hesitancy or like kind of wanting to know more or wanting to know if this can happen. And like, all that's fine. So we're not saying like, oh, you just got to support this and shut up. And, if you don't love Carlson, then shut up. Like, but it seems like it's gotten really personal and weird where people are like kind of attacking it, trying to shoot it down. And I also want to just give credit where it's due. Like, the other day when Carlson was on the show, it would have been very easy for him to say, oh, these guys at Oakland don't want to do this. These guys wherever. He went out of his way to be like, no, I got a good relationship with those guys. Like, we're cool. I think we should all come together and make this happen. And not only are they not doing that, they're like attacking him. And so I think it kind of just, that tells you a lot about the situation right there, that he didn't come on here and poke fingers at other people and try and like, say anyone else is doing stuff wrong. He kind of offered the, hey, let's all do this together. Let's all help the program that we're all trying to help. And he's gotten a resounding no from some of these folks in a very weird personal manner. And it's gotten messy and it's gotten weird. And I don't understand it, man. There's a lot of this that kind of goes over my head anyway. But yeah, it seems you can tell how coordinated this attack is coming just by, Pittman's tweet and all these things. It's just, it's weird, man.
So at the end of the day, Oakland, get off your rear ends and stop holding up the Hogs. Stop holding up NIL. Stop all this stuff. You can do it too. So stop. Arkansas's, it's tough enough as it is to be good in sports in the Razorbacks. Like, don't make it worse. Get it done. So perfect. Great ending to the show, guys, fellas. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody watching in, listening in. Be sure to subscribe to Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page. Check out our website, constant up-to-date information, posted articles. Curtis doing a great job with that, as well as Andrew writing on those articles and getting them up. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're 2 weeks away from Razorback football starting up. Can't wait. So for Curtis Wilkerson, as well as Andrew Ellis, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.